Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. Pierre Poilievre's come out and given us a speech on his privilege motion and about some pro-Palestinian groups going around Canada these days. So, with no further ado, let's get into it. But first, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Now, let's get to it.
Everyone for being here. As you know, the House of Commons is paralyzed today, again, I think for the seventh day, after Justin Trudeau refused the Speaker's order to hand over evidence to the police in a $400 million scandal. A scandal involving 186 conflicts of interest, wherein Liberal appointees gave money, Canadian tax dollars, to their own companies. There must be something really damaging in all these documents Trudeau is covering up for him to shut down the House's businesses for 7 days in order to prevent the police from getting their hands on him. It's just another reminder that after 9 years of Justin Trudeau, everything is broken. He's not worth the crime, the cost, and the corruption. Housing costs have doubled. The cost of food has driven 2 million people to the food bank. Our economy is the fastest shrinking in the G7. Right now, the average American makes 50% more than the average Canadian, the worst gap between our two countries in Canadian history. Food price inflation has been 36%.
And you got to remember, in all this, and the Liberals still say and use old data from the Financial Post from July that says Canada on track to be one of the top G7 countries economically. And yet we're seeing people, record amount of people going to the food banks, record amount of people feeling and living in poverty, and we're seeing homeless encampments pop up everywhere in our cities, places where we've never seen them before, drug issues, addiction issues, all of this stuff, and yet our politicians say our economy is better than ever.
Higher in Canada than in the U.S., something that the food professor Sylvain Charlebois attributes directly to the carbon tax, which, and there the news gets even worse, Trudeau wants to quadruple to 61 cents a litre, which will grind our economy to a halt. Factories won't get their parts, grocery stores won't get their food, workers won't get their paychecks. It will be like a nuclear winter for our economy if this quadrupling carbon tax goes ahead. And that's why common sense conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime after the carbon tax election. But worse than anything else.
And if I were a Liberal, and then just in a crazy world, I'd at least at a time like this where I can see that, okay, sure, maybe by all the I can't say that word, the World Fund Forum and all of the financial people say, oh, Canada's on track to be the best economy ever, but I'm seeing the people on the ground in hardship and everything. Why wouldn't you at least put a pause on the carbon tax, just like you put a pause on the carbon tax for home heating oil? Why wouldn't you do that until things in Canada got good again? Then it would actually at least give you a little bit of leeway to say, okay, I'm going to put the carbon tax in when Canada is doing good and take it off when Canada is not doing so well. Like when we're in a recession, as we are now.
Is what we see in our streets. What has happened to our country? The division, the violence, the hate, the danger, the anti-Semitism, that we've never seen before in this country. Now, it's easy to blame the firebombing of synagogues, the hateful genocidal protests, protest chants in front of Jewish businesses, homes, and hospitals as simply a reaction to a conflict in the Middle East. Doesn't make sense. First, hate crime was up over 100% before October 7th. And second, this is not the first time there's been a conflict in the Middle East. There was the war of 1967, and then there was the Yom Kippur War in 73. There were 2 intifadas. There was the war against Hezbollah in 2006. There was the operation against Hamas in 2014. We never saw that violence spill onto our streets. We didn't see people bring those hatreds into Canada. But after 9 years of Trudeau's radical ideology, his deliberate attempts to divide people into groups, his reckless destruction of our border security, letting in 2 ISIS terrorists, one apparently videotaped mutilating a human body on a crucifix and subsequently making that person a citizen. These kinds of reckless policies and the actions of this government, the refusal to condemn these remarks just yesterday.
Yeah, the Prime Minister has to take full responsibility of that stuff, because even if he's not the border minister or who takes care of the border, he's in charge. He's the head of the country. So the buck stops with him. So if something like that happens, then he has to deal with the consequences. Now, Justin Trudeau, we all know he's not going to deal with the consequences. He's not that kind of guy. Everybody else is wrong except for him. But we got to realize, when we let 2 million people into the country this fast, that there are going to be some bad people that come in with a lot of good people who actually need and want to be here. And I think that, and all the divisiveness that people are seeing in Parliament, in the news, in everywhere, definitely in the mainstream media, because the pictures and the precedent that they're putting out right now is just adding fuel to the fire, is creating this storm we're seeing in Toronto, in Montreal, and Ontario, now kind of seeing it at Edmonton, and a little bit in Calgary. The Prime Minister has to take responsibility of his actions and then fix it. But he's not going to do that.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs did something unbelievable on the floor of the House of Commons. I read the genocidal comments that have been made by these radical mobs, and I said, would you just condemn it? From the river to the sea, she wouldn't condemn that. Israel will soon be gone. She wouldn't condemn that. There's only one solution, intifada, revolution. She wouldn't condemn that. She wouldn't even affirm Israel's right to retaliate against other countries attacking it. She should apologize. A foreign affairs minister in Canada should find it very easy to condemn those kinds of remarks, but she didn't, because she's pandering politically, which is what Justin Trudeau has been doing for the last 9 years. Today, we see that on our streets, the organization Samadoun, which is a...
And they don't want to make waves between different groups in Canada. And they need the votes from everyone. That's why they're pandering between people, between person. Plus, it lines up with their ideology that sort of wokeism is, you can't speak out against these people. You can't speak out against these people unless they're Canadians, because then they're the majority. Then it's all right to put them down. But any minority, you can't speak out against. And I'm not trying to be rude here, and I'm not trying to be judgmental and all that, but that's kind of how their ideology works. Unless you're the majority, you're not to be spoken out against.
A front for the PFLP has been fomenting these violent and horrific protests and mob actions. This organization is a front for an already banned terrorist group, and it is an offense under Section 83.5 of the Criminal Code, as enacted by the Anti-Terrorism Act, to knowingly act on behalf of, at the direction of, or in association with a terrorist entity. Specifically, Samadoun's founder, Khalid Barakat, has been described by the Israeli government as a high-ranking member of the PFLP. The PFLP has been placed on the list of banned Canadian terrorist entities for 20 years. In 2021, the Israeli Ministry of National Defense designated Samadoun as an organization that is a subsidiary of the PFLP. Germany banned the Samadoun, saying that it served as an international network which disseminates anti-Israel and anti-Jewish propaganda and supported and glorified various foreign terrorist organizations, including Hamas. Samadoun's leadership was deported from Germany, refused entry into the EU in 2022, and both times they were returned and, of course, welcomed to Canada. In 2019, PayPal donor box.
And that's craziness. Rejected all the way around the world because they knew they were a really bad guy. I'm trying to limit the T word because of YouTube, but he was an extremely bad guy, and Canada still let him in. That just shows how broken our system is.
And played shut out online donations to Samadoun due to its alleged links to the PFLP, following an incident in June where the PFLP issued an official statement of gratitude to Samadoun for its support of its prisoners. And Samadoun's Canadian leader, Charlotte Cates, has traveled to Iran and appeared on state TV, where she described Hamas's actions of October 7th as brave and heroic. Her organization has gone on to make numerous glorifications of October the 7th, specifically saying, this was what she said, her group said yesterday, "Long live October 7th. October 7th, the inception of the Al-Aqsa flood, the day that made clear to the world that Palestinian people and their armed resistance can and will liberate Palestine, and that the entire region will be free of Zionism and imperialism. The great flood toward liberation." On October 7, 2023, Mohammed Deif, commander of the Al-Qassam brigades and the Palestinian resistance, said, "Today, the people reclaim their revolution, correct their path, and return to the march and return to the march of return." And finally, yesterday, the organization chanted in our streets, in Canadian streets, "Death to Canada, death to the United States, and death to Israel." So this is a terrorist organization.
And how can you be... I have to be careful here, because in Canada, we want to keep our freedom of speech as free as possible. But we shouldn't be saying those things, especially if you come to Canada to live. You shouldn't be saying those things here. We do, luckily, have the freedom of speech to actually say those things without being arrested. But you shouldn't be doing that. And you shouldn't be stomping on the flag. You shouldn't be throwing the flag on the ground. And you definitely shouldn't be burning it. Now, if you don't like Canada, don't come here. And that's all I got to say about that. Now, but the rest of the, Israel and Palestine conflict, I don't know enough about the history about that stuff to really comment too much. So I'm just going to comment about what's going on inside our borders, stuff I've never seen before. And I never thought I'd ever see somebody say these things about Canada or desecrate our flag. Like I said, I want to reiterate this. I'm glad I live in a place where you can do that, but you shouldn't be doing it.
Common sense conservatives are calling for the government under Section 83.03 of the Criminal Code to ban Samadoun now. And let's bring home safety and security and peace to our streets. Let's unify our people. Let's end the crime by locking up the dangerous, repeat offenders. Let's secure our borders. Let's keep terrorists out of our country. And let's stand up for what's right once again. Stand with our allies against terrorism and for decency. Let's bring home the country that we knew and still love. Thank you.
And I think I'm going to end it there, folks. I was going to play the comments or question and answer section of this video, but I don't want my channel being wiped off of YouTube. So I think I'm just going to end this here and ask, what do you guys think about all the conflict happening here in Canada, all the protests going on in our city? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, if you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. And have a great day.